Good evening. Tonight, a social media post by a Jamaican aunt has raised questions about child safeguarding, online sexual exploitation, and how authorities respond when an alleged victim is outside the country. The woman, Jane Elizabeth, says her 14-year-old nephew received an explicit image from a person she described as his coach. The allegation has not been independently verified by CVM. But the case raises questions about how families should report such allegations and what responsibilities come with working with children. Also tonight, the demolition of homes in Cooper's Pen has put a spotlight on another question of rights. What are the legal rights of people who have lived on land for years without formal titling? And when can long-term occupation become a legal claim through adverse possession? Senior Counsel Anthony Williams explains the rights and limits of squatters in Jamaica. Then we turn to one of Jamaica's most important national figures. Today marks 139 years since the birth of the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We look at the man, the movement, and the ideas that made him a global figure. And finally, we ask whether Jamaica is simply celebrating Garvey's legacy or actually living it. I'm Tyrone Reed, and this is Lead Story. Thanks so much for staying with us. Now, a social media video by a Jamaican woman, an irate Jamaican woman, has drawn attention to an allegation involving a 14-year-old boy and a person described as a football coach, his football coach. In the video, the woman, identified as Jane Elizabeth, says her 14-year-old nephew is currently in the United States and alleges that the boy received an explicit image from a man she describes as his coach. She also says she contacted people in the constabulary force, that's the Jamaica Constabulary Force, JCF, about the matter and was told that there was little that could be done while the child was outside Jamaica. That's what she's alleging. Those claims have not been independently verified by CVM News. And because this involves a minor and an allegation of sexual misconduct, we will not identify the child or the person accused. But the allegation raises important questions about child safeguarding, online exploitation, and the responsibility of adults who work with children. Joining me now is Jane Elizabeth. Top of the evening to you. Welcome to Lead Story.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Thank you.
We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Now, you are a sports analyst, yes?
Sports host, yes, but I do analyze from time to time. Yeah.
How concerned are you? Are you familiar with the case firstly? It has been making the rounds on social media. It has gone viral. We'll tell the viewing public in a little while what the police said, because we did make attempts to invite the police onto the program, particularly the police personnel from the Center for Investigation of Sexual Abuse and Sexual Offenses and Child Abuse, pardon me, that's CISOCA. We'll tell you in a little while. We also tried for the aunt who posted those videos that went viral, but we weren't able to get her to commit to being here. In fact, we were told that she posted another video that some investigation has started into these allegations, and as such, she wouldn't be able to comment on the details of the case any further publicly. But let me talk to you about what you know about this case and what concerns you as someone who is involved in sports.
Well, funnily enough, I know you said this has been making the rounds, but I wasn't necessarily privy to the case. And when it was brought to my attention, it drew back a lot of memories of a lot of girls who have heard similar stories. They just haven't had an outlet, or probably someone like that the young ladies aren't to speak out for them. As someone who has done sports and is still within the sports space, as a young girl, when you're growing up and puberty starts to take place, you can't necessarily control how people will be attracted to you, right? But, or I shouldn't say you can't control it. You can't necessarily control how they act. But I think I would suggest to young girls out there that may be facing mild cases of this in terms of maybe it's poaching or approaching or adult males inappropriately saying statements to them. I would say, one, always speak up for yourself, because the more you say nothing is the more nothing can be done about it, right? I think it's unfortunate that the situation has come about, and it's still going on, I should say. I think psychologically, a lot of things start from the home. And I think parents hold a responsibility in teaching young girls, especially young female athletes, how to carry themselves. You're going to be developing muscle. You're going to be developing certain features that can attract the opposite gender. How do you clothe yourself? I'm not necessarily saying that this young lady is wrong, right?
Well, it was a young man actually who was the alleged victim in this case.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
interestingly, we before you continue, because there are some things that you've said that we'd love to drill down into and unpack just a bit for the benefit of those who are watching and listening, so that folks can be helped. And of course, if anyone who is watching or listening, if you've been a victim of any of this kind of activity involving someone in the sporting world, we please just want to offer just a bit of a warning for that, and also just to put people on their guard for that. But we have a clip. It's heavily edited because of how irate the art was in relating the story or the allegations. Let's have a listen.
For everybody where asks me, my nephew they in America with me right now. Him now go back down till few weeks time. So every police at Jamaica with my contact, what I know personally, them tell me say there's nothing that can be done at the moment because the person who it happened to is not there. So none of them can do about it. I mean, I understand all Jamaican police stay so, because this is a man where train liquor pitney. This is a man where train liquor pitney. So who to tell who else him do that to? My nephew is 14 years old.
She, of course, there, and she also has a video in which she plays a voice note, allegedly from this football coach, and we can't hear that one because of what is being said in the video. There's no way to disguise that, but just to put it out there, that in this video you hear a male voice coaching, trying to get this youngster to send an explicit photo or video of himself to the individual, and the individual was suggesting that he would do likewise. So the allegations in this matter are very serious. You've said, though, as someone who's been in the sporting field as a student athlete, you're saying these kinds of allegations, occurrences, you're saying aren't new?
I've heard stories of females, particularly, who have been affected that within this context of teachers or coaches poaching them. I think that heavy responsibility needs to be taken by the school, the administration, when it comes on to these cases. I think when students start to one, if they're speaking out about it, I think something should be done, because it can come out in their actions in other ways. And there are many students who have been probably blamed for being troublesome students, but there is history to that trouble, right? And I think as a nation, this is something we need to address. A lot of our children are hurting, right, from many different issues, and particularly with the context, you gave me the context of that, the fact that this is a young man. I don't think in 2026 this case we can't start this case whether he's in Jamaica or not, right? I think this is something that needs to be addressed, because rightfully she did say it. If he has been affected by it, which other young man out there has been and is not speaking about it, or does not have somebody to represent them in that way? And I don't think that one is too many for me. One case is too many for me. I think within the sports space, sports is supposed to be a vehicle to express yourself, as a vehicle for opportunity. It's supposed to be an escape from everything that is going on, and it is an extracurricular activity, especially when you're 14 years old. I don't think at that age you should be groomed, poached, or even approached by someone who is supposed to be of authority to any student. And I think measures should be taken as it relates to what was said, and if it goes to the extent of messages being sent. I think that
it appears we've lost the connection there with our guest. Hopefully we can reconnect with her in a few ticks. But among the things that are troubling about this is, if you listen closely in that video, the ad says the police personnel that she knows personally, that she has contacted, which raises questions as to whether or not a formal complaint has been made to the police and not necessarily people that you know within the police force. Miss Elizabeth Reed joins us. How concerned are you that she was being told, as she alleges, that because the young man is out of country, nothing can be done? Are you concerned by that?
Completely. I think if I was supposed to put myself in her shoes, she said it in the statement as well. If he was affected, you don't know who else probably was in a similar instance with this coach. And I think that even just that, I was saying before it cut off, that one case is too many. It's too many, right? And a coach should not be poaching a male student in any way. I think this is something we need to address from an authoritative point of view.
I'm almost out of time, but I want to ask you this, Miss Elizabeth. You've said you've heard of cases from your time as a student athlete. Do you know if those ended with anyone being charged or convicted?
Well, I don't know the full story, but I do know that it was brought to be addressed within the people that were involved, right? Meaning that whatever, I don't know the conclusion, but I know that it was addressed within the school and whoever was involved at that time. I just believe that when it comes on to sports, there are a lot of things that we are not even ready to talk about, and probably should start talking about. And this is one of the conversations. We need to put in measures for our athletes to protect them, male and female, because sports is an escape. It's a vehicle to opportunity. And these are hindrances to young minds who are trying to develop themselves. I think this is something that Jamaica needs to take seriously. And if it was, I'm in my 20s still, and if it was going on when I was in high school and it's still going on now, it's too long. This is something that we need to address and get on promptly. I don't think it should matter whether the person is in Jamaica or not, because cases like this can still happen, and it doesn't have to necessarily be that coach. It could be probably another one, right? So are we going to put something in place for a coach?
It appears. Thank you so much, Janae, not certainly hearing us, but thank you so very much. That's sports host Janae Elizabeth. We appreciate you coming on. Yeah?
You're welcome.
Indeed.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
All right. When we come back, senior counsel Anthony Williams explains the rights and limitations of informal settlers.
Imagine if I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Prevention is critical. That's why I recommend Colgate Total.
It's 15 times more effective at fighting the root cause of oral health problems. Prevent problems before them.
Hey, what I want?
Hi, I am Candy Pang.
What I want?
What a guan?
That I want, pa.
What a guan? What a guan?
What a guan! Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV.
And that's a guan, pa. What a guan?
Watch Walking on the Word with Apostle Professor J. Andrew Scott every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m.
An apostle, on have it? Cause 3 contracts to be released to you. So as of tonight, the realm of the supernatural is active and activated to cause 3 contracts. Jesus' name.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes. Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's
Welcome back. The Cooper's Pen demolition has put a national spotlight on a question that affects communities across Jamaica. What are the legal rights of people who occupy land without holding registered titles? The word squatter is often used as if it automatically means a person has no legal rights, but Jamaican law recognizes the concept of adverse possession. Under the Limitation of Actions Act, the right to recover land can be barred after 12 years in certain circumstances. Recent Supreme Court decisions have emphasized that a claimant seeking to establish adverse possession must prove more than simply that they have been living on the property. The court looks at issues including open and undisturbed possession, factual possession, and the intention to possess. A person who has permission to be on land is also in a different legal position from someone who occupies it without the owner's permission. So, where does the law draw the line? And what happens when a person's home is destroyed before their claims to have been dealt with properly by the court? Joining me is Senior Counsel Anthony Williams. Top of the afternoon to you, evening to you, Senior Counsel. Welcome back to Lead Story. I think you're muted, Senior Counsel. We're not hearing Senior Counsel Anthony Williams. Hopefully we'll be able to sort the audio out and get down to what we want to discuss in this segment. What are the rights of those who've settled informally on property that does not belong to them? That's what we're trying to drill down into and unpack this evening. But we're not able to hear Senior Counsel. Senior Counsel?
You hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you now.
Can you hear me?
We're hearing you now. Wonderful.
Right. So, okay. So the law is very clear. There is an act called the Limitations of Actions Act. And under that act, if a person can prove that they occupied possession of a property for 12 years, undisturbed, unmolested, peaceful, quiet, over those periods, then they can make a claim for adverse possession. Now, persons who are given permission to be on the land, for example, they could receive permission to plant crops, or to build a temporary home, or to do some kind of agricultural, or persons who are tenants or licensees or lessees. As long as you're given permission, then the law is very clear that you will not be part of that category of persons who can claim hostile possession. Now, also persons who pay taxes, they go to the tax office and they simply pay taxes with a view to own the land. There are many legal authorities that make it very clear that simply paying taxes will not automatically qualify you as a legal owner for that land. We're not saying that you will not be aided, but simply paying the taxes is not it at all. There have to be more. Now, in order to qualify as well for adverse possession, the person must be in physical possession of the land. They must actually occupy the land. There are persons who are overseas and they just put in an application for adverse possession, or even persons in Jamaica, they're in another parish and they say, well, you know, I've not seen anyone on that land for over 12 years, and they claim that they are entitled to adverse possession. That's not so. You have to be physically present on the land and doing things on the land. The other important aspect for adverse possession is that you must have in law what we call the intention to possess. And what is the intention to possess? The legal maxim is called animus possidendi. You must have an intention to exclude the lawful owner. And I'm going to give you a very classic example. There was a case in Jamaica called Freckleton versus Freckleton. And this was a husband and wife situation where the husband left the matrimonial home and he migrated to the United States of America for over 12 years. What the wife did, she demonstrated an intention to exclude her husband. So what did she do? She changed the padlocks, she changed the keys and all the ingress and egress for the property so that the husband would not have access. That is what you call an intention to possess. So persons who are occupying land must have the factual possession, and they also must have the intention to exclude the property owner. Now, there's something fundamental that we need to also understand. Remember, the Limitation of Actions Act speaks about a 12-year undisturbed. So if someone is living on the land for 10 years or 11 years, only 1 year to go, just one. If the landlord or the owner or their servants or agents come in the 11th year with only 1 year to go and did something, and that something is some slight act to disturb the person's quiet enjoyment, then regrettably and unfortunately, that would constitute a disturbance. Therefore, automatically, that 11 years that the person was on the land would come to an end because their disturbance was disturbed. And therefore, they would have to start all over. Another 12 years would start all over. So if persons receive notices to quit, or the landlord or the agent or their servant come and give them a summons or write them a letter, anything to disturb their possession, that is disturbance, and therefore they cannot claim adverse possession.
Right.
Well, let us look at...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Counsel. Continue. Just complete the thought, because I have questions, loads of questions.
Yes. So there are persons who have occupied the land for 12 years undisturbed, and once they can meet those legal requirements, they are good to go. They can file an application in court. They can file an application on the Registration of Titles Act to get a new title for the property. As long as they meet all the legal requirements, they will have to have an application. They will have a statutory declaration filed by themselves, stating the grounds, and they would need at least 2 supporting witnesses to say that the applicant was in fact in possession of the land, undisturbed, quiet, peaceful, and what they did, plant trees, build houses, took care of the land, etc.
This is a good juncture for me to jump in now, senior counsel. So how does the court go about establishing that these claims being made to adversely possess are in fact true outside of those witnesses? Because people can collude. So is there any attempt at independent verification by the courts?
Well, the court can only come to its proper conclusion based on what we call evidence. Evidence. So one party is called the claimant and the other party is called the defendant. And what the court would do is to listen to the evidence. Having regard to all the circumstances, the court would look at what is it that person did, who owned the land, when did they own the land, how long did they occupy the land, were there any hostile acts, were there any caveats, were there any summons, was there anything that the owner of the land did to interrupt or to interfere with that person's possession or peaceful occupation of the land. So it's really evidence.
But can the court come to this determination with the landowner being in absentia, as it were, the owner of the land not being present? Can the court make a determination there?
Yes, the court can come to that determination, and the court has done so in many cases. In fact, there's another case called Wills and Wills, and this is another husband and wife situation where the wife, Mrs. Wills, left the husband for umpteen years, over 12 years, never returned to Jamaica, and if she did, she never visited the property. She did absolutely nothing. She made no inquiries about rent. She paid no property taxes. She did nothing. And so Mr. Wills, after the first wife migrated after that divorce, Mr. Wills married a second wife, and the second wife made a claim for possession of the property to exclude the first wife. And where was the first wife? The first wife was abroad. So the court can and has consistently delivered judgments in favor of persons who are overseas. As long as completely thought for me, as long as the court has credible evidence. As I said, judges always and must, they can only conclude cases and deliver proper judgments based on evidence.
All right. So I must say, just 2 questions. We're almost out of time. So my first one to you is, I noticed that you're mentioning quite a number of adverse possession cases involving couples. I didn't really expect that there would be those kinds of cases in adverse possession.
Yeah, and there are other cases that involves persons who are unrelated, and numerous cases in the court where persons are unrelated, and the court has in many instances grant persons proper pronouncements and give them ownership as the lawful owner based on adverse possessions. There are many cases, and equally there are cases where the court threw up those applications because of lack of credible evidence.
We're going to have to try and bring you back, Senior Counselor. Again, thank you for this public service that you're doing. We appreciate it, but because I still have an outstanding question, but you're going to have to answer it at another time, because how do we independently verify these things? Senior Counsel says the court has to make a decision based on the evidence that is before it. Thank you so very much, Anthony Williams. Appreciate it.
Okay, my pleasure, my brother. Good, thanks.
All right, when we come back, we turn to one of Jamaica's most important national figures, the country's first national hero. Today marks 139 years since the birth of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We look at the man, the movement, the legend, the ideas that made him a global figure.
peace and love in the place. Jamaica want love every time. And that if you say, and that if you do, and that the life if you live. One love, Jamaica. Peace.
The time brought to you by the Ministry of National Security and Peace is...
I'm me and the style is no scam and I style me.
From the market to the farm to the office, money talk is everywhere. But are you making sense or nonsense? The Bank of Jamaica brings you common sense with BOJ. Real stories, real laughs, and real lessons to help you protect, grow, and manage your money. Mattress savings.
At least my mattress. You charge me to sleep on it.
Partner plan.
Remember last year we needed our payouts early? But Miss Pam gave it to her cousin first.
Or a sketchy loan flyer.
Electrifying deals.
See why making the right financial choices is pure common sense. Brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, empowering everyday Jamaicans one episode at a time.
Grandpa, it's 2026. You can't keep hiding all your money in every single pocket forever.
So get up and unite for your team. Give the best we've got. It's how we play. Every bat, every preach, every part, every deal, every wicked, every soul. And the heart and soul and passion, and the culture, Caribbean flows. When playing from out all nation, with the team in a unification. When the stadium ram beach at the grandstand, and the meaning of unification. It's how we play. It's how we play. When the stadium ram beach at the grandstand, and the meaning of unification. It's how we play.
Thank you so very much for staying with us right here inside Lead Story. I'm Tyrone Reed. Now, today, Jamaica marks 139 years since the birth of one of its most influential sons. And to be fair, it's really more than just Jamaica, because Marcus Garvey is a global figure. The Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born in St. Anne's Bay on August 17, 1887. He would become Jamaica's first national hero and one of the most influential black political and cultural figures of the 20th century. Garvey started the Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, in Jamaica in 1914. The organization grew into an international movement promoting black pride, self-reliance, African unity, economic development, and self-government. He later moved to the United States, where the movement grew dramatically. He also established the Black Star Line as part of his vision of economic self-reliance and international connections among people of African descent. Garvey returned to Jamaica in 1927 and entered politics, founding the People's Political Party in 1929. He eventually left Jamaica again and died in London in 1940. His remains were returned to Jamaica in 1964 and interred at the National Heroes Park. He was conferred with the Order of National Hero in 1969. Today, August 17 is observed as Marcus Garvey Day. But beyond the ceremonies, what does Garvey's ideology mean in Jamaica in 2026? Joining me is Casey Garvey, founder and managing director of JAICU. I hope I got that right. Did I get the pronunciation correct?
You're close, JAICU.
JAICU, yes. And a poet and a political commentator, Kevin O'Brien Chang, should join us in a few ticks. But welcome to Lead Story. Good to have you.
Thank you. It's a
Indeed.
pleasure.
Marcus Mosiah Garvey, locate the man for us, the legend that he is.
I think there's so many nuances to him, and there are lots of very controversial things. I know that to us, he's a national hero. To the on the legal record to the United States, he's still a criminal. And it just kind of goes to show how complex stories can be if we don't unpack them properly, if we don't listen to all sides. So I'd say that today, Marcus Garvey's legacy is still powerful. It is still ringing. And even as a poet, it's still ringing to me, not just because of my last name, but also because of the importance that Garvey put on us locating ourselves in literature, in culture, in making sure we are transferring the depths and our histories through our stories, and ensuring that as Black people, we don't just understand what happened, but we understand who we are as a result of what has happened.
Locate that last name for us. Help us to understand the last name. You're Garvey as well?
Yes, Casey Garvey.
So,
yeah, proudly so.
Any relations?
I would say very indirectly.
Very indirect. No relation?
I haven't proven direct relation, but let's just say I'm very proud of the last name.
But you do see yourself as a Garveyite?
Absolutely. And I think that Garveyism should be taught in schools, no bias.
So it's interesting that you share the last name and you are an advocate of what he taught and believed. This whole business, though, you mentioned it, that Garvey is that criminal record, that it still remains, given all that we know, you know, it shouldn't really be the case.
It shouldn't have been there in the first place, I'm going to say that.
but it's still there. What do you make of efforts, particularly in recent times, to have that changed?
I think first of all, I think it's a travesty that that record was there in the first place. You know, there was really no proof for him to be charged in the first place. And I'm glad that there have been efforts. And I believe that those efforts there've been progress at them, but again, there's still more to be done. It should be completely expunged.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're now being joined by public commentator Kevin O'Brien Chang. He joins us via Zoom. Kevin O'Brien Chang, locate for us on this Marcus Garvey Day, the man, the legend that is Marcus Garvey.
Well, you know, I think it's Martin Luther King, I think. I'm paraphrasing that he taught Black people to be proud of themselves. And, you know, go back in time. And Black people themselves looked down on themselves. And Marcus Garvey stood up and said, no, we should be proud of ourselves, up you mighty race. He gave, you know, the famous saying, Jamaican saying, where somebody picked me to. And he gave that feeling to Black people around the world. And that is why he is revered by everybody. You know, for example, he inspired other non-Black people. Ho Chi Minh was a member of the UNIA, right? Because you remember, you know, race is not color, skin, and all that. It's in the mind, as Marcus unforgettably said. Others may free the body, but only we can free our minds. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. So others looked up to him as people who are downtrodden. He gave them pride in themselves. And as I said, it goes beyond race. Skin color is on its surface. It's the feeling, the mindset of people who feel that they're inferior, and teaching people that there's no such thing as an inferior human being. We are all equal. And Marcus, as I said, one of the great movements of the 20th century, the UNIA, and that's why he's revered, and especially that's why in Jamaica he is considered the greatest of national heroes. You talk about the national heroes, yes, they're all well thought of, but people always think of as the hero is Marcus Garvey to most Jamaicans, I believe.
He has gotten the greatest honor a country can give to anyone. At least Jamaica can give to any citizen, which is that of national hero. But do you think, Ms. Garvey, that we celebrate Marcus Garvey enough?
I don't think we do. I think we have a very shallow reflection on who he is. We just kind of casually look at the fact that, okay, he was a national hero and that's it. But we don't look at the fact that, again, what he did at the time was absolutely revolutionary, because he wasn't just talking about the political issues or the social issues. He was trying to develop an economic engine to sustain those. So I think just how comprehensive his approach was. I don't think that's fully appreciated. And I don't think we've actually taken on some of his approaches into some of our policy. I don't know, maybe stepping outside of my role as an artist, but when it comes to embedding some of his approaches into our policy directives, I don't think we've really fully done that either. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we fully appreciate how great a thinker and mover and actor he was.
Hey, Kevin O'Brien Chang, do you agree?
Of course she is correct. And one thing Jamaicans don't realize is when Marcus, after he came back to Jamaica, he played a fundamental role in Jamaican politics. The first political party, the PPP, People's Political Party, and his manifesto. He had an 11-point manifesto. Even now it makes 1000% sense. The first one of any political movement in Jamaica to put forth a manifesto. And then the authorities
used this about, he said about the judges were biased, something to that effect, and they used this to put him in jail. But the authorities, of course, did not want any black pride in Jamaica. The authorities were all white, British colonialists. They want them to keep feeling inferior and know their place. So they fought Marcus Garvey, and his ending was quite tragic. As many heroes and champions around the world have had tragic endings, because often you're fought by the authorities. They don't want to see people rising up. But a man's legacy is what he leaves behind, and he could have left behind no higher legacy than he did.
And of course, he did serve as a counselor in the KSAMC, I think it was. But what led you to become a Garveyite, if I might call you that? And what, he has many famous sayings, and you heard one day from Kevin O'Brien Chang about "Up You Mighty Race," which is perhaps the one I love the most.
Yes. And of people who don't know their roots.
Yes.
Yeah.
What would you say that caused you to become such an admirer of Marcus Garvey?
I would say it's one of my earliest summer jobs when I was in college, because I did some research on Marcus Garvey and his work and how it even extended to Latin America. I don't think a lot of persons are even aware of that, and how he galvanized black masses in Latin America behind his cause as well. So I was doing just some research with the University of the West Indies under Professor Rupert Lewis, and it really opened my eyes to the breadth of what he was doing, as well as the power of being able to reach that many people. Again, this is not social media. This is not an Instagram reel that can get a million likes. Viral before, and it just shows the potency of his ideas and how quickly and how easily he could stress the impacts of what he wanted to do in not just Jamaica, in the Caribbean, in Latin America, across the entire black diaspora.
And he was a great orator as well. Kevin O'Brien Chang, what turned you on to Marcus Garvey in your search through history?
Well, I'm a person who believes in fighters, especially those fighting for the downtrodden. And those are the type of people I'm attracted to, who fight, overcome, and uplift people. And what I think about Marcus Garvey that Jamaicans don't realize, the 1938 labor rebellion that transformed Jamaica, a lot of those people involved were Garveyites. Kid William Grant was a Garveyite, and many of them who were prominent in the movement were Garveyites. So it's not just a person you're talking about. You're talking about the influence, how he influenced others around him who carried on his legacy. Even while he left and died and things, people carried on what he stood for. So he's not just a man you're talking about. You're talking about somebody who transformed the minds of people directly and indirectly. So I would say that's what Marcus Garvey was, a transformer of minds.
I have less than a minute. Should Marcus Garvey Day be a public holiday?
I would say yes, I'm all for public holidays, because public holidays have a way of galvanizing not just national attention, but they can also create more activity in the cultural economy and industry. When you have a national day, you get to have national festivals, songs, poems, because I am a poet. You can have different ways in which to get the masses, both in Jamaica and abroad, to listen to what all of our artists, singers, dancers have to say about this icon.
And the next time you come, you'll have to do some poetry for us.
Of course.
But let me ask you, Kevin O'Brien Chang, should Marcus Garvey Day, his birthday, be a national holiday? Should it be a public holiday?
I don't know if it's not public holiday, but it should get more recognition than it does. I don't know what ceremonies they have. I don't know, but it should be a day of recognition. And speaking of public holidays, Casey will agree with me. We need to change what we have, where the 1st and the 6th this year were a Saturday and a Thursday. That's no public holiday at all. We should make the first Friday and the following Monday public holidays. You still recognize the 1st and the 6th, but you have your
Kevin O'Brien Chang, you're opening the proverbial Pandora's box. You know the purists are going to say you can't touch the day.
Don Anderson took a poll 2020 for the Ministry of Culture. 62% of Jamaicans want the 4-day holiday, only 26% are against. The people should get what they want. Holidays are made for the people, not people for the holidays.
Vox Populi, you heard it there from Kevin O'Brien Chang. He says, listen to the voice of the people. We're out of time, but we have to leave it there. Thanks to Kevin O'Brien Chang and Casey Garvey. She's a Garveyite and a Jamaican poet. Thanks to both of you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Lead Story. We take a break right here and come back with more.
You can make a difference with local and international diplomas in 3 to 12 months. Register now at Distinction College and improve the City and Guild Center with locations in Ocho Rios, Kingston, Spanish Town, and the St. Elizabeth. Start day, evening, and the Saturday classes in practical nursing, geriatric nursing, phlebotomy, and early childhood education. We have the lowest fees. Also sit City and Guild's maths and English exams. Classes begin soon. Call us at 356-4167 or 749-5224.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Welcome back. Changing gears in our final segment for today's edition of the program. Dr. Brian Langren has been appointed to lead the Bank of Jamaica, succeeding Richard Biles, whose 7-year term ends this week. The appointment, effective August 19, Dr. Langren, a career economist with more than 2 decades of experience in central banking and financial stability, has held senior roles at the BOJ, and he has served as a financial stability advisor at the Caribbean Regional Technical Assistance Center, CARTAC, the IMF-administered regional body advising central banks across the region. Finance Minister Favour Williams says Dr. Langren's leadership will strengthen Jamaica's monetary policy as the country navigates a rapidly changing global economy. He succeeds Richard Biles, who steered monetary policy through the COVID-19 pandemic, global inflation shocks, and 2 major hurricanes. Dr. Nelson Christian Stokes, Dr. Stokes joins us. Christian Stokes, he joins us now. I'm not certain what they have in the prompter there, Dr. Stokes, but Dr. Christian Stokes, he joins us now. Thank you so very much. Why are we getting the Nelson in there, Dr. Stokes?
Nelson is actually my first name, but normally when my primary school teacher calls me Nelson, I'm in trouble. That's all.
So everybody knows you as Christian Stokes.
Chris Stokes, yes.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Stokes.
Yes.
Richard Biles leaves after 7 years. That fundamentally changed the way the Bank of Jamaica operates. It's known as the bastion of fiscal prudence, and it was made independent under the tenure of Mr. Biles. How do you see this transition for Dr. Langren?
Well, let me start by saying, in my view, Mr. Biles was a man for the hour. You remember, he was coming off of epoch, of sterling career in the financial sector, in the private sector. He was the right man. In my opinion, he did an excellent job. Of course, it's no time for him to and we can debate that, but it's no time for him to step away.
Indeed, and Dr. Langry has pledged to keep inflation low and stable, which of course is one of the primary functions of the central bank. What will be his biggest challenge in achieving that?
Well, first of all, let me say that there are two areas that he'll need to focus on. One is financial sector stability, in which he's one of the he's a global expert in that, so I'm comfortable there. Inflation low I think is an important challenge as we go forward, especially given the high import portion of Jamaica's inflation. So he'll have to think about that carefully and take an approach that while you're trying to calm inflation, you don't continue to put downward pressure on businesses by raising interest rates, which is the classic play in terms of dampening inflation. I think that needs a rethink, frankly. And at any rate, under Mr. Byers, when rates were raised, the banks didn't pass it on. So he has a challenge there in finding the right levers to ensure that he manages inflation well. And inflation has been a great robber of wealth, and particularly for people retiring on a pension. So it's an important task. And I look forward to seeing how he addresses that.
And it's often said that it's the greatest tax on the poor. Jamaicans often hear, Dr. Stokes, that inflation is within or close to the BOJ's target, but many households still feel significant pressure from the cost of living, food, utilities, and other essentials. How do you reconcile those two realities for those who are questioning? We're hitting the low, the 4 to 6 target range there, but the pocketbook is feeling it.
Right, no, the pocketbook is feeling it. But we must be clear when we speak about inflation. It's a rate of change, how much it has gone up, which is not to say that the price of a loaf of bread to begin with wasn't higher. The fact that it went up 4% instead of 12% is a different matter than the fact that for too many it is unaffordable in the first place, if you understand the distinction. The second thing that we need to continue to monitor is the basket of goods that goes into measuring inflation, the consumer price index, and so on, to make sure it reflects, and we mustn't be afraid of this, make sure it reflects the lived reality of the population, because there's no point saying it's 4% when the things that I buy have gone up 20 and 30%. We also need to be careful about fuel price changes and prices in food items in Jamaica, which tends to fluctuate with demand and supply shocks, hurricanes, war in the Middle East, and so on. So he does have his hands full to keep core inflation low, and to the extent that he can moderate shocks that will invariably have due to weather conditions, global situations, and so on. So he does have his hands full.
Dr. Stokes, I'm told I have less than 2 minutes, and I have two big ones for you. And the first one is, you were touching onto, it's a good segue. One of the first things, or what is the first thing do you think he needs to tackle as BOJ governor?
Well, he needs to defend the hard-won gains, independence of the central bank. He's a hardcore economist. I expect him to engage in robust dialogue with the IMF and not just accept what they have set down. I think he has spoken already about modernizing the role of the central bank, and he recently did a paper on digital money in central banks and small economies. These things become important as Jamaica tries to find its space in tomorrow's world, and we see what must happen with the Jamaican digital currency and so on. But first things first, financial sector stability, and trying to keeping inflation down within the range, not too low, not too high. Those are the first things. But he has other things that are on the horizon, which I believe he's uniquely qualified to tackle in terms of what role does a central bank play in a small island developing state, especially given Jamaica's challenge with growth, and I look forward to seeing how he addresses those issues.
There's a policy rate matter that has been lingering for some time with the BOJ, lowering the policy rates, but the commercial banks not necessarily following suit and translating that to the public. How do you think he can tackle that issue? And should the BOJ be given more power to ensure that the commercial banks move when the BOJ moves?
Yeah. Well, it was probably one of the last issues that was tackled by Mr. Biles. It's an important one. Now, to be fair, when the BOJ raised rates, the central bank, the commercial banks did not follow in lockstep and raise rates at the rate that perhaps Mr. Biles would have loved to see.